Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are, and welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we talk about nerd news that has happened over the past week since our last show on last Tuesday. There's a lot of topics to get to tonight. I am by myself, so we'll go through them probably pretty quickly. And who I am is Rodney Brown, the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. First-person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, a couple of other places doing a bunch of other things. Before we get into our first topics, let's say hello to some people in the chats. Baka, I'm pronouncing it Baka, even though I don't think that's the way it's spelled. So if that's not the way you pronounce it, apologies for calling you unintelligent in Japanese. Hello and welcome to the show. Luminous, welcome back. Thank you for the big tip from last week, Luminous. I'm completely shocked that I absolutely missed that Godzilla news, but it's on the roster tonight, so we will be talking about it. Before we get into any of those things, first, we are trying to get our numbers on Twitch up. If you do happen to have a Twitch account, we would love to have you go to that URL right there, twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. Check out our stream. We're streaming there right now. We're streaming on YouTube and Facebook Live, as we do every time we do any of these live shows. And if you like what you see there on Twitch, please follow us on Twitch as well as any other platforms that you happen to see us on. Having said that, let's jump right into it, folks. There's no reason not to. Who is that person on the left? I think you can figure out who the person on the right is. That person on the left is the actor Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen has been cast as Prince Adam / He-Man in the upcoming live action Netflix Masters of the Universe movie. So we talked about this as something that was happening a while back when they first announced it. Pretty much about the same time that they started announcing all of the insane amount of Master of the Universe stuff that Netflix is doing. So the image of He-Man there is actually from the Kevin Smith written wonderful Masters of the Universe Revelations. And there was also the CG He-Man in the Masters of the Universe, which was kind of a reimagining with a much younger skewing versions of the characters, but also storyline. This is again a third thing. This is a live action movie that is being made for Netflix. Kyle Allen, not a whole lot of stuff. He was in a 2018 American Horror Story. But most recently he was in Spielberg's West Side Story. If you've seen that or seen any of the pictures, he is not exactly Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So I'm assuming that since they say he is cast as both Prince Adam and He-Man, that there's going to be some mocap CGI stuff for the He-Man, which is fine. If you have seen Free Guy, I don't want to give away how or why it happens, but there's some stuff there that Ryan Reynolds does that is just perfect and would be a perfect fit for this kind of work. So apparently this was originally going to be at Sony, and an actor, Noah Centineo, was supposed to be doing it. So the Nee brothers from The Lost City and Band of Robbers are directing. They co-wrote the script with David Callahan, who did the most recent Mortal Kombat, which we'll get to later on as well. There's some news about that. And Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Pretty much a standard story, He-Man story, it looks like. So no sense of when this is actually going to happen. It looks, there's nothing in here because, again, they just recast the lead, so very early on in the production. Next up, we are going from film to some kind of TV. It's not really terribly clear, but the subject is American McGee's Alice, which is, of course, on your screen right there. The super scary, weird video game series created by one of the designers of the original Doom and Quake games. The news is that this Radar Pictures is going to be making a TV adaptation of American McGee's Alice. And I guess the big news with this is that attached to write it is David Hayter, who wrote X-Men, X-Men 2. Let's see, what else? Where we had Watchmen. Certainly a co-writer on that, I would guess. The recent Netflix series Warrior Nun, which I was not big on. And apparently he wrote The Scorpion King. So everybody starts somewhere, right? So Hayter's going to be creating this. And in this article on Hollywood Reporter, it just keeps calling it a TV adaptation. They're not using the term series. I've got to assume it's a series. But if it was a TV, even if it was a streaming film, they'd still use film. So, Harry Brady, welcome to the show. Yeah, so, again, just announced. Absolutely no sense of when this could possibly hit whatever sort of TV, whether it's going to go on, quote unquote, linear or basic cable like AMC or something like that, or if it's going to go on a streamer like HBO Max or Netflix or what have you. But interesting people associated with it. Hayter has written some good. He's certainly written one of the best of the original X-Men trilogy movies, X-Men 2. He also wrote the original X-Men, so take that what you will. Other not adaptations, sequel in this case. We found out, speaking of what I had mentioned earlier, that New Line is going to be making Mortal Kombat 2, which is the current title, sequel to their recent Mortal Kombat movie. And again, interesting name attached to it. Writing it will be Jeremy Slater, who wrote is the head writer of the upcoming Moon Knight series. Was the developer for Netflix of the Umbrella Academy from the comics from Dark Horse, and wrote or is writing to direct something called Thread, with James Wan producing, so it sounds like it might be a horror movie. But this is the sequel to the last Mortal Kombat. So good for them. If you saw our full fat spoiler chat on it, most of us were neutral to positive. It had some good things about it. The action was pretty good. The character designs were pretty awesome. Lead character and the way they turned his story into mostly a completely pointless thing to have in the story of Mortal Kombat was meh. But around that, it was a pretty exciting action-filled movie. So hopefully with this new writer, it will be even better in the sequel. So again, no time as to when this might happen. It doesn't say for sure that this is going to be on HBO Max like the last one was. That was basically just a distribution deal because of COVID. So who knows? When we find out, we'll let you know. Following that in our list of things to talk about. This, of course, are the wonderful two leads of Good Omens. And the news is that Amazon and BBC have announced the final full cast of Good Omens. So, of course, you've got Tennant and Sheehan here, in the image coming back. It would make no sense if they didn't. You also have John Hamm, Miranda Richardson coming back, a bunch of other people. Not coming back specifically, they said will be... All right, now I just lost it here. It was right in front of my eyes. Um, anyway, there are two people who were in the original that were reasonably important, and they're not coming back. Their characters are apparently not in here again, and I'm absolutely losing it here. Benedict Cumberbatch and Frances McDormand will not be coming back, but coming back will be Derek Jacobi as Metatron, and joining the cast is Dame Sean Phillips, who was in Dune, and I didn't realize this, even though I've watched this a bunch of times, was also in I, Claudius with Derek Jacobi way back in the day. Harry Brady, that's good news. Alice in Wonderland abduction of the game into a series. Yeah, again, hopefully a series. I don't know why Hollywood Reporter is using the phrase TV adaptation continuously without saying it's a series. I mean, it kind of has to be realistically. Maybe they're calling it a mini series or what. Anyway, yeah, it seems like it will be a series. I can't imagine, again, if it's a film, they're going to call it a movie, even if it's a TV movie or a streaming movie. But yes, I like that idea. So Good Omens Season 2 is coming up. I do not have the information on when this is going to drop. It may not actually have that information out yet. They're still filming in Scotland, according to this article, quoting the director and co-showrunner. So I'm guessing it won't be this year. It'll probably be sometime in 2023. But you never know. Depends on how many special effects they need to add after the fact, and whether or not they got a bigger budget to do more interesting special effects, or whether Neil Gaiman even needed to write any. And for anybody who's a big fan of this, apparently Gaiman and Terry Pratchett had a deep outline of what a season 2 or a sequel book to Good Omens would have been before Pratchett died. So while this is technically being credited as being written by Neil Gaiman, it is, from everything I've read that Gaiman has said, based very strongly on those notes that they had developed for a possible sequel to the book. So that'll be cool. All right, moving on. This is from the recent The Suicide Squad. And the news is, in an interview with Deadline, with their podcasting they call Hero Nation, James Gunn said that, let's see, how do we put this? We're working on something else new, another TV show that's connected to that universe. I can't quite say. The implication is that Gunn is working on another spin-off like Peacemaker out of the movie The Suicide Squad. And that's it. That's all he's saying about it. We have no idea exactly, what character. It says connected. It may not even be, a character. It might be the Weasel, who survived, right? That was like one of the end credit scenes. I can't imagine making a series around the Weasel, but you never know. So it'll be interesting to see who this is. I would love to see it be King Shark. I would think a King Shark series would be funnier than Peacemaker, and Peacemaker's hilarious. The other thing he said is that while he can't announce it, when it comes to a second season of Peacemaker, he said there's a really good chance of that. So fingers crossed that we get a second season of Peacemaker, if you are enjoying it as much as I am. I understand it might not be for a lot of people. It's really foul. But James Gunn knows how to use foul humor in a way that doesn't seem like they're just doing it to drop F-bombs. And I don't think this is in this article, but I have read this. He has also said, and it might have been in that Hero Nation podcast, that when Guardians of the Galaxy 3 comes out, that will be the end of the Guardians, at least in the incarnation that, has all of those characters in it. And that's no big surprise. Marvel loves to assign people to 3 movie deals, with extras. And obviously, they've appeared in the Avengers movies, the Infinity War and Endgame movies. But, it's, time to move on. Will some of them continue on in some fashion? Sure. I don't doubt it. Will they introduce others? Maybe. Will they have a different, like the Infinity Watch? Anything is possible. They're introducing Adam Warlock in this upcoming movie. Luminous. I would guess Polka Dot Man. Honestly, David Dastmalchian, can't ever remember how to pronounce his name, was so good as Polka Dot Man. I would love to see that. But either way, whether it's King Shark or Polka Dot Man, big thumbs up for me. Gunn just is nailing it with Peacemaker. The audacity to have a character as unlikable as, horrifically horrible person like White Dragon, as a regular character in Peacemaker is, it's ballsy. Nobody's ever going to mistake Gunn with siding with any of his wildly racist, bigoted, insane beliefs. But just the fact that he has a character in there that's willing to be that horrible, now, that's something. Anyway, so let's hope we get news about both of those 2 things. A Peacemaker second season and whatever this new potential spinoff is pretty soon. I will forever and ever, until the new D&D movie comes out, use this image from the classic Dungeons and Dragons movie for anything having to do with D&D streaming or movie entertainment. And we have a story about that. So apparently Hasbro's entertainment studio division E1, which they bought for a lot of money a few years ago, is going to be doing Dungeons and Dragons live action television series as the first step in a larger D&D universe that they are going to be doing apparently all kinds of content for. But the big news here is that running this whole, the TV series, the flagship of this whole universe, Hasbro has nailed down Rawson Marshall Thurber to sort of create this whole thing. He is most recently known as the writer and director of Red Notice, which got, questionable reviews, but it was Netflix's most watched film of all time. So, he did something right. Maybe that was casting Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot, but still. Apparently it made so much money that they've already signed on for 2 sequels to this. But he's also known for, he directed We're the Millers. He wrote and directed Dodgeball. So I'm guessing this is not going to be some sort of serious, dark action movie with that name attached to it. Now, almost everything they've got here that he's done, I'm a fan. I haven't seen Red Notice, but, Dodgeball is hilarious. We're the Millers was hilarious. There was something else that he was a writer on. Oh yeah, he wrote and directed Skyscraper. Never watched it, no interest in it, so no, I can't say. But certainly the things of his I've seen, I'm a big fan. So, this isn't any big surprise really. Hasbro has kind of mentioned this in the last couple of years that, ever since they bought E1, that they're going to be looking to make entertainment products out of their intellectual property. And boy, obviously it's Hasbro, they've got a crap ton of intellectual property. I think it's really interesting that D&D is one of the first ones that they're going at hard. We'll see how that plays out and what ultimately we get. I hope it's not the absolute cheesy nightmare that the Jeremy Irons, Thora Birch starring movie was back in the day. But if it is, at least we'll get something to laugh about. All right, this is a real quickie. I just had to bring this up here. It was posted into the group, and I went, yeah, okay. Minnie Mouse has a redesign. And her redesign is this blue with black polka dot pantsuit designed by Stella McCarthy. So, yay. Good for her. Doesn't do it for me. If that makes any of my non-binary friends happy, then good. That's a plus. Other than that, it's not a power suit. In the article on CNN Style, we were talking about this. They talk about, the pantsuit as a sort of power suit for women in politics. Hillary Clinton, Angela Merkel, and so on. Well, yeah, but, this is Minnie Mouse. Now, are we going to make Minnie Mouse like the CEO of a major mouse-focused corporation or something? And again, it's Minnie Mouse. She can wear whatever she wants. Just doesn't do it for me. This is a screen grab from the 2019 action adventure game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Very popular game, well received, good reviews. The news is the studio behind that and behind Apex Legends and Titanfall is making 3 new Star Wars games. One is a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. Another is in conjunction with this new studio called Bit Reactor, which was founded by former developers from Firaxis Games who made XCOM. And that will be a strategy game. But even more interesting than the sequel to Fallen Order for me is that they are going to be making, as currently an untitled, Star Wars-based first-person shooter. And yes, please, give me one of those. As long as it's a fairly traditional first-person shooter and not, in fact, like like an Apex Legends team-based, MOBA or looter shooter. Give me a first-person, give me a Borderlands, a Fallout or something like that, and but in Star Wars, and I'm a happy camper. No idea when any of these are out since they were just announced, and games take a long time. So we'll have to see when we get any further information about what the titles are of some of those that don't have titles and when they will come out. But just putting it out there that news just dropped, and I'm excited for at least 2 of those. I'm not a strategy game person, so I could care less about that one. But the sequel to Fallen Order and a first-person shooter, it's kind of my name. So yeah, I'm excited. What I'm not excited about, one is kind of even just talking about this at this point, but that's Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne in the Ant-Man and the Wasp. And the news is, you've probably seen this, Evangeline Lilly made a post on her Instagram where she said she was at the anti-vaccine mandate, not anti-vaccine specifically, but the anti-mandate march in Washington, not this last weekend, a couple of weekends ago. And she made it very clear that she is against the mandate. She implied with her photo of a person who was, in fact, standing in front of the Lincoln Memorial with a sign stuck in their backpack. I'm guessing he looks like a guy, that said Vaxxed Democrat for Medical Freedom, that she was in fact pro-vaccine and vaccinated herself. Otherwise, she would have taken a picture of somebody else. But she never said it. What she did say was that she viewed this as a similar action to the trucker convoy that was at that time making its way across eastern Canada, heading towards Ottawa, the capital, which was to protest the Canadian vaccine mandates. And it turns out, and I don't know if she knew this at the time, whether she's backed off of this, I haven't seen anything about it since. The people in the lead of that convoy, the people who organized it, are pretty much virulent anti-vaxxers, and particularly the lead organizer is a strident anti-vaxxer and pretty open racist. So, I mean, maybe this isn't quite as bad as Letitia Wright, who literally posted a video from a pastor who was putting out a bug nuts crazy COVID conspiracy theory. But by association, she is connecting herself with people who are, in fact, horrible, horrible people. By saying that she supports this, in her home country of Canada, she's Canadian, that she supports this whole movement. Yeah, I don't know what to tell Marvel about this. They obviously haven't, given Letitia Wright the boot. As far as we know, all of the problems with the filming of Wakanda Forever supposedly related to Letitia Wright's injuries from back when she was filming some stuff up here in the Boston area. Who knows? Maybe all of that is, in fact, Marvel trying really hard to work out how they can have her come back while she is still apparently a strident and, conspiracy theory promoting anti-vaxxer. And Lilly, Evangeline Lilly, is not quite that odd, but still, these people are backing people who want to do damage to their other citizens within, either here in the United States or with the truckers in Canada. Dump her. Recast her. I have no problem. Recast her. I'll gladly just sit there and go, oh, look, Hope looks different. Move on. Anyway, that's that. Enough said about that. Now, here's what you've been waiting for, Luminous. The Godzilla talk. And again, thank you for pointing this out to us, or to me. I had no idea that this was even out there. We missed this for our last show. It actually dropped a couple of days before our last show, last Tuesday. But the news is Legendary is going to be taking the Godzilla Monsterverse, so like the whole thing, to a live action series on Apple TV Plus. It's going to be, one of the co-creators will be Chris Black from Star Trek Enterprise. And this, talk about burying the lead, Luminous. One of the other creators of this will be Matt Fraction, the writer of Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon, one of the best comic book writers out there. Almost every bit of the Hawkeye Disney Plus series that just aired over the holiday is from his My Life as a Weapon. He's a fantastic writer. Him in charge of this, it's got to be better than Godzilla vs. Kong. And apparently this series takes place right after Godzilla vs. Kong. It will feature other Titans in the Monsterverse. It will feature a apparently new human family that's going to be at the center of the whole story, that will also in some fashion be connected to Monarch. So Monarch is coming back. It's the Monsterverse. It is literally a TV series sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong. No hint that Kong will be in it, but they do say other Titans. So, I like this idea. I really thought Godzilla vs. Kong was dumber than a box of rocks. which made it, the occasionally really exciting fights just weren't enough to take it out of the, gosh, that's horrifically stupid, and the horrible performances, or the horrible character writing. Millie Bobby Brown's character was terrible. She did a pretty good job of portraying a very terrible human being, but why would you root for that person? Anyway. And again, full fat spoiler chat. We covered that back when. Go back and look at that video. It's there. It's here on our YouTube channel. Go check it out. It's awful. Well, I don't know. Our review is probably pretty solid. Ivan, I've been missing you over there on the chat, but only missed you by about 15 minutes. Likely they will be folded into the Galactic Avengers, so that's a reference going back to the Guardians. Yes, but I'm not really sure if we know that there's going to be something like the Galactic Avengers. My guess is it will be a team like the Infinity Watch, which was kind of a Galactic Avengers, that was led by Adam Warlock. So yeah, and many of the people who are out there in the Galactic, milieu right now, like Captain Marvel, would probably be part of that team, but I don't know that they're going to call it that. They might, and I'd be fine with that. But yeah, I get your drift. They will. Whoever survives will probably be part of whatever that group is, whether it's called Avengers or Infinity Watch or nothing. And also, Ivan, it looks like Minnie is wearing pajamas. Yeah, kinda. Because of the big polka dots, it does look very much like pajamas. Luminous, Monsterverse. I want to see the giant water buffalo on Skull Island again. I guess that is technically Monsterverse, right? So you could also see I don't know if they exist anywhere other than Skull Island, but hey, Kong can punch a tunnel clean from the center of the earth. So these, the skull things getting off of Skull Island could happen. So anyway, yeah, so the Monsterverse thing, very exciting. Again, just announced, so we don't know when this will actually come about. Probably 2023 at the very earliest. That will be very effects heavy. It's going to have to be. So it's going to take a while to produce that. But it's got Apple TV money. So, and for whatever problems I had with Foundation, and again, full fat spoiler chat, review of Foundation, go look it up. The spend wasn't a problem. The budget was impressive. So hopefully Apple TV will throw that same level of budget at the Monsterverse. Let's have them fingers crossed. Oh, that's interesting. Give me just a second here, folks, while I try to adjust. I picked the wrong image for our next topic. It is, in fact, exactly the same as the last image. It's Godzilla. And that isn't what we're going to be talking about next. Okay, and this is what we're going to be talking about next. The trailer. The first official full trailer for the upcoming Paramount Plus Halo TV series dropped. And it looks great. It really looks amazing. They nailed it. You could say that to some extent it looks a little cosplay-like, but then again, that's just because you've seen so many good cosplays of Master Chief and the other Spartans. The various, you actually get to see them fight against the beings of the Covenant. So you see the elites, the brutes, the jackals, energy swords. It is wonderful. They did an excellent job of integrating, real life action with, this CG. Kind of in the same way, and this isn't the only comparison I'm going to make here, like The Mandalorian, where you've got, a combination of practical effect action, CG action, and it's really well put together. That's what this reminds me of. Pablo Schreiber also reminds me a lot of Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian, and maybe that's just because the helmet voice effects make them sound kind of the same, but particularly the very last shot where he's talking about Halo, and finding Halo, is like, okay, if he's not literally impersonating Pedro Pascal in that voice, I don't know what is. Is that a bad thing? And maybe that's what is in the trailer. He's not going to sound like that. That's fine. But there's obviously similarities. Master Chief does not take off his helmet. I don't know whether or not Pablo Schreiber will at some point, or at least you never see him with it. I've also heard, Cortana is introduced in this, and there's apparently complaints about Cortana's look. They're obviously going after the newer Cortana as far as the design, and I'm fine with that. She's also more realistic looking. I'm also fine with that. I mean, these people have interstellar spaceships. They can come up with realistic looking holograms. I mean, come on. But it looks really good. The story looks good. The cast. I've always been a fan of Bokeem Woodbine. He's just not ever in enough stuff for me. And so I really like the fact that he's in this and he looks like he's doing a bang-up job. The design of the different Spartans are different enough that they didn't have to go with red versus blue. They're all kind of some variation of gunmetal green or gray. So that's good. I like that. It's just a lot of fun. Go watch it if you haven't. It makes me very excited for this series. March 24, so it's coming right up. We only got a couple of months to wait. And I'm going to be there for sure. It was, well, that's not true. I was going to say it's the best thing about the Bengals-Chiefs game, but that was a hell of a game. So, anyway, our last story is about Sony ponying up $3.6 billion to buy Bungie. Now, I could have used the very last image, of course, because Bungie was the original studio behind the first Halo game, the first couple. First three, right? Anyway, somebody who's more versed on those, let me know in the comments. I think it's the first three. So, but they're known now more for, of course, Destiny and Destiny 2, which is what this screen grab is from. And it's made pretty clear here that Bungie created Halo as a studio under Microsoft. And they they became an independent studio, which is when they started working on Destiny. And so Microsoft owns the intellectual property still for Halo, of course, which is why, And there's been some speculation about whether or not this means that Halo is going to wind up, either on the PlayStation as an exclusive. And well, Microsoft has that intellectual property right. So that's not going to happen. It's also probably likely that anything that Bungie makes going forward is not going to be on a PlayStation exclusive. They made it really, really clear that this is going to be a completely independent studio. They, of course, own 100% of the stake in the studio, but they're not going to roll it into any division, and they will obviously have to report up to somebody in either Sony Games or the PlayStation system. But it is, according to everything they're saying, a completely independent entity and will be developing multi-platform games. That's one of the reasons they bought them. So it doesn't look like this is really any sort of an attempt to kind of get back at Microsoft for buying Activision Blizzard. Because again, we don't even know if Activision Blizzard purchase is going to mean any of those games are going to wind up as Microsoft exclusives or any of the next versions of them. it would be silly for Microsoft to do so. They make so much money on multiple platforms, they'd be literally cutting off a revenue stream for some perceived benefit of selling a few more Xbox units. Yeah, ain't gonna happen. Also, by the way, the title of this particular segment of Nerd Week Live, no, of course, the Halo trailer did not make Sony buy Bungie. Deals like this start months, maybe more than a year in advance before they even get announced. So, this was in the works long before the trailer came out. But that was just me being silly. So, an addendum to this, or sort of an adjacent piece of news to this that just dropped late this afternoon, is that apparently the Federal Trade Commission is going to be looking into Microsoft's buy of Activision Blizzard, because it is the biggest tech company purchase ever. That means that there's definitely something there to look at, whether or not it rises to the level of any kind of monopoly or anti-competitive practice. At least the FTC is going to check it out. And I'm fine with that. And I'm sure Microsoft is fine with that. I'm sure their lawyers are sitting there waiting to earn their paychecks. I don't see any way that this could be interpreted as being anti-competitive. But I'm not the FTC, and I'm not their lawyers, and we'll have to see where this goes. But I doubt that there's going to be any problem with Sony's buy of Bungie. It's a single studio. It is a $3.6 billion deal. It's not $69 billion, which is what the Microsoft deal was, 68.7, something like that. So I would assume this is going to go through pretty easily. Apparently, this is, since the beginning of 2021, this is Sony's 6th acquisition, most of which were companies they already had investments in or were doing product or work for Sony Interactive. But they are doing roll-ups pretty much just like Microsoft is, just Microsoft spent a ton of money. By all accounts, approximately a 100% markup on market value. Don't know why you do that, but I'm not a Microsoft financial planner. So, so that's the big news for this week. Before I give my goodbyes, once again, just a quick bit of promo here. If you we'd love to have you go check us out at patreon.com/nerdcaliber. That's the URL on your screen right now. If you get there and you decide you want to be a patron, we'd love to have you. 3 tiers, $2 for the lowest tier. We take that money and we use it to go to cons when cons come back. Omicron, go away. Stealth Omicron, don't be a thing. Stop. And so that's it. That's our show, folks. Not tomorrow. 2 nights from now, Full Fat Spoiler Chat will be Arcane, the Netflix animated series based on League of Legends. It has fantastic buzz about how good it is. Some of the anime YouTubers that I watch were complaining that because it's not technically anime, they can't really count it as the best anime of the year. Otherwise, it would be the best anime of the year. And that's in a year... it did come out. So that's in a year that had Mushoku Tensei and Odd Taxi and just Sunny Boy and genius, incredibly good anime. So I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it yet. But we will hopefully see you at that show. We'll see you at Anime Octane next Monday. We don't have the topic yet, but we'll get on that and let you know. And then Nerd Week Live next Tuesday. In the meantime, stay safe, stay warm. It's going to be warming up here in the Northeast and start melting some of that 2 to 3 feet of snow that we got. Yay. But also stay safe. Distance. Wear the N95 mask. Get vaxxed if you haven't. Get boosted. You get a lot of breakthroughs because of Omicron. But the vaccine has been demonstrated to make the illness way less deadly and way less uncomfortable. So, yeah, if you haven't, me telling you is not going to change anything, but you really should. With that, we'll see you at an upcoming show. Good night and bye-bye.